Okay, we do have a new assignment today. I am not going to have it be due this weekend because I realized in talking to most of my colleagues, and I don't know if this carries over to you guys, but I realized that majority of my colleagues are having stuff due on like Sunday night, and which means like everybody has everything due on Sunday night. So we're not going to have this due on Sunday night. We're going to have this due on Monday night. But remember too, and this is my goal. The reason I talk so fast and I try to teach you something really quick and then give you the period is because I want you working on this during our period. If you want to later, are you sitting outside? That's awesome. Awesome, Alexa. The reason is if you want to later tonight break out this project and start working on it, that's awesome. That's very cool. But I don't want you to feel like you have to. I want to give you the class time so you do this. Now, with that being said, if I say, all right, guys, you guys are done, make sure you get your work done before, 10:55 or whatever, and then you decide to go watch, Word World or something like that and go watch TV and do whatever, I can't do anything about that, and you're just not going to get your project done. So make sure you're using your class time like we're actually in class, okay? So we're going on to the next progression. So let me pull this up and present to you. Like I said earlier, please make sure you have your notes out. Make sure you have your something to write down some notes with. If it's still in that same sketchbook, notebook that you've been using before, that is ideal. That way we can keep everything kind of organized. Okay, so we did our sketches. The one thing that I always have problems with that kids don't usually take in from what I'm teaching them is that they're supposed to use actually already made magazines. So I'm looking at this screen that I have up right here. I have a bunch of different magazines. I have Cosmopolitan, Bazaar, Time, Vogue, Allure. So I'm going to sketch out 6 of these. The majority of you that I looked at your assignment, you were right on point with that. The biggest thing that I saw that a lot of you forgot to label, which I'll give a comment to you when I get to grading it. The biggest thing that you guys forgot to label was the secondary text. And the reason that secondary text is important is in a situation like, let's go with this one. There's a lot of secondary text on here, but where the secondary text is really important because that contributes to the flow of the magazine. If this secondary text is just thrown all across the middle, it would look totally different, okay? There are magazines. We'll get into different art styles. We'll get into what's called the modernist art style or art period and the postmodernist art period. And it gets away from the easy, clean, readable stuff, okay? But that's why it's really important that I want you to be labeling all of that stuff, okay? So with that being said, we're going to our next assignment. And what the next assignment is you're taking all of this knowledge you have. You're taking the 6 different aspects of the magazine layouts that we've talked about, and you're going to be designing your own magazine, okay? So this is what's going to happen. Let me grab my handy-dandy camera. I will have this in a post for you for an assignment. You are going to take a solid piece of paper, okay? And on the full piece of paper, that is going to be your magazine cover, okay? So it can be a lined piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a plain white piece of paper like this, but that's what you're going to do your magazine cover on. Now, well, Mr. Nelson, I don't know what I should do my magazine cover on. Well, that's super easy. Remember when we had our magazine cover design notes, okay? And our magazine cover design notes, we talked about writing a 1, 2, 3. All right, on the top corner or whatever of your notes. So the 1, 2, 3 is what we're going to use for the content of our magazine. So with your 1, 2, 3 that you have, and you all should have it if you followed along and did the notes and did all that stuff. With the 1, 2, 3 that we have, number 1 is going to be, this is something that you should write down. The subject of your magazine. So with mine, remember, number 1 was your favorite thing, right? If you weren't here, that's what we're talking about. Number 1, you're writing down your favorite thing to do ever. So I put, for my example, comic books, comic book movies, like nerdy stuff like that. Okay. So that's going to be my one. Number two, if you remember, was a specific aspect of that. So mine will be, mine's Captain America up here. What that number two is going to be for us, number two is going to be your primary image. Okay. So whatever you have written down for number two, and don't change it. I don't want you customizing it now. Okay. Whatever you have written down for your number two is going to be your primary image. And number three, if you remember, number three was a descriptive word, right? Something that you could say that might represent your favorite thing. So mine's incredible. So number three is going to be our primary text. Okay. So 1, 2, 3 are going to go as follows. Number one is the subject of my magazine. So if number one was basketball, I'm going to make a basketball magazine. Number two is going to be my primary image. So it's going to choose what you're actually having a picture of. And then number three is going to be your primary text. All right. Okay. Now, I'll come back to that in a second. So if you didn't get it all written down, that's fine. I will give you another opportunity. So with that being said, step one, first thing I need to do after I see my 1, 2, 3 is I need to do some research. And I need to find an image that I want to use. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm not going to go Captain America magazines, right? Captain America is my primary image, is what I want to try to use. So I'm going to search Captain America. I'm going to go to images, and I'm looking pretty good, okay? Eventually, when we get our programs, which I was told we were supposed to be getting our programs on Wednesday, last Wednesday, and we haven't gotten them yet. So hopefully it'll be early next week. But Captain America is what I'm going to choose. So I got to try to find an image that I want to use for my Captain America on the cover of my magazine, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search through these. Now, let's go with, well, actually, let me tell you this. Here's a little note to put on. Because we're eventually going to get on the computer, you want to find an image that we can use later, okay? So what you're going to do, when you go put your Google search in, you go to images. I'm going to come over here to tools. This is a note you should write if you don't know how to do this, okay? I'm going to try to find large pictures. I'm going to go to tools, and then I can go size, color, type, stuff like that. I'll click on size, and I'll change this to large. Now, why that's important, we'll get into this when we get into Photoshop and stuff. Why this is important is we want images that have a lot of pixels, okay? Pixels are little tiny blocks of color. So you know when you look at a picture on a really old camera or something like that, it looks a little blocky and like pixelated. That doesn't look good. And when we're doing graphic design, we don't want to have pixelated images, okay? So if I go over there and I go to tools, I go to large, and I come click on a photo like this, you'll see right here in the bottom left-hand corner, it says 1280 by 720. That's pretty much a screen size. That's a really good image size. Anything over 1,000, really over 800 or so, but like over 1,000 is really good, okay? If we were to go, let me go back and see if I can find a janky one. Let's see, like this maybe. No, that's really, really big too. It's 2,000 by 1,300, okay? But those work really well. The smaller ones that are all pixely and nasty and messed up, you don't want to really mess with, okay? So as I'm going through it, I'm trying to find my image that I want to use. Let's say this one. I like this image. 1,200 by 590. That's all right. Let me click on that big. See if I can go like this. No, I don't want to do this. No, go away. Boo. I'll just leave it right here then, okay? Say I want to use this picture. Can somebody type or voice in and tell me what's the problem with choosing this picture for the cover of my magazine?
Copyright.
Copyright, yes. But here's the deal with this. Because we're using it for a project, it's totally fine. If you were to take this image, I see this, it's so funny. I see this on TikTok all the time. I follow a bunch of like small businesses and stuff like that. I don't follow dancing people, but I follow a lot of small businesses, and people all the time take pictures like this, they print it out, and then they sell it to people. Like, that's huge copyright infringement because you're selling something that's not necessarily yours. Okay, it doesn't really matter for us, and that's a very Spencer's a very good point. It doesn't matter for us though because we're not doing it for profit. So you can go do as many projects as you want with copywritten images, as long as you're not out there trying to sell them and do stuff like that. You start putting them on T-shirts and selling them, then that becomes an issue. But if you just do it for a class project, you can use it. So that's totally fine. But yes, good point. In terms of laying out our magazine, why is that a bad choice? So when we look at magazines, really important to understand this concept, and I'll write this on notes so you guys can add it to your notes, because I realized that I didn't talk to you guys about this last time. This. Okay. When we're talking about the layout of our magazine or canvases in general, and I want you to draw this somewhere on your notes. If I draw a tall rectangle, and I draw a rectangle on its side, okay? If I have these two right here, the tall one here is what we call a portrait layout. Same thing in Google Docs and any other stuff that you're working on. Is how you want your canvas laid out. And this other one right here, oops, is called landscape. Okay, portrait and landscape. So when we're talking about magazines, how are magazines usually laid out? Laid out in portrait. They stand up. One reason is it's really hard to hold a magazine that's set up landscape. I know a handful that have tried it before, but it doesn't hold and read well. But also when you're scanning across titles and you're looking for different titles, if it's set at a landscape, you see right now this landscape magazine is going to be shorter than the other ones, so this doesn't flow as well. Okay, so with that being said, and understanding portrait and landscape, now what happens is we look at the picture that I just chose for Captain America, and with this picture right here, if it's a landscape, I'm going to have to crop it, or I'm going to have to cut it down to fit in my magazine. Okay, so that can work here. I can cut this right down here on the left side and come over and cut up right here, but I'm going to lose a lot of information. Does that make sense? If I were to use something like this, that one I can crop it down to here, and then that gives me a lot of more space up here too, where I can put a title of the magazine or something like that. So maybe that's the one that I'm going to end up using. Okay, so if that's the case, now I need to start trying to lay out what my magazine is going to look like. So like I said before, on a full sheet of paper, I'm going to lay this out. Now, the other thing that we have not done yet, which is step 2, or maybe like 1.5 or so, you need to figure out a title. Okay, I haven't given you a title in your 1, 2, 3. The title can be whatever you want it to be. You just make sure you have it placed up at the top of your page, that it's bolder, that it stands out, okay? And then make sure it's something that's kind of catchy. So what I'm going to do to start laying out my magazine cover, I'll try to hold this way up here. Here's my full piece of paper. So I'm going to lay out my Captain America. It's going to be really weird because I have to draw with one hand and my other hand holding the camera. So I'm going to go like kind of sketch it out. See, I'm going to go like this. Here's my Captain America head. And then he has like shoulders right here. Then he's got some big muscly arms. His body. Again, I'm not looking for some crazy fully rendered piece. I'm going to go like this just to kind of give emphasis to who it is. He's got these little like shoulder strap thingies. And then I'm going to go like this because there's a mask. A up here. Okay, you guys get the point. Captain America. Yay! Okay, so there's my primary image. Little line. Primary image. Now I'm going to set my title. I'm going to go really bold. And I'm going to be very generic, and I'm going to title this Marvel. See how I'm making the text go behind his head? So I want my layout to kind of interact with the image itself. Okay, so I have my title. I have that. And now I need to add the third thing, number 3 on our list, which is our primary text. And my primary text is incredible. Okay, so looking at this image, the first thing I need to take into account is where the flow is. The flow of this kind of keeps me on this left side because he's looking that way. His chest points that way, but his eyes are kind of looking this way. So I'm thinking as I come down his body, maybe off to this side is where my text is going to be. So I'm going to write off to the side. Okay, incredible. There's my title. Here's my primary text. And now I have those first 3 things taken care of. I have laid out essentially my magazine cover. Okay, understand I'm using the entire photograph of Captain America. So I'm not using I'm not going to make a collage. I notice how I didn't go grab, if you look back at our screen, notice how I didn't come grab this picture right here. Okay, I don't want some fan art that someone did. Okay, and I would suggest you do the same thing. Don't go try to do, let me see, this, like a movie poster collage. Okay, try to use a photograph, and in that photograph that you decide to use, like this one right here, in that photograph, you're going to come back, and that's where you're going to add all your information and stuff around it. Okay, so once I have this laid out, I need to make the decision. Where am I going to put my secondary text? Well, it would make sense if I have incredible. I'll put secondary text in here. I'll say something like Captain America, and I'll do squiggles. Captain America, leader of the Avengers, ? And then down here, I'll go, what the Hulk thinks about Captain America or something stupid, okay? And I'm just going to write some little secondary text squiggles. Maybe I'll put 2 more down here. I'm going to keep this shoulder kind of open and exposed. So I'm going to go 2 more things down here. I'm going to go squiggle over on this side. And then 1 more section down here. These are secondary text. And then from there, I need to add or decide if I want to add secondary images or not. Okay. One thing that I'm going to do if I'm looking at a Marvel comic magazine is I'm going to go back to Google and I'm going to go Marvel magazine. Ooh, these are pretty cluttered. These are pretty full. Here's one right here, Captain Marvel. That's kind of nice. It's kind of clean. This one right here has primary text all the way across the middle. Okay. That could be good. Oh, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Captain America Anniversary Magazine, no secondary text at all, but really clean. So the reason I'm doing this is I'm just trying to see what the style of magazine kind of flows like. Because if you decide to do a fashion magazine and say you go Vogue, okay, and we have a Vogue magazine, this magazine right here has a very different, I mean, look at this one right here. This is a really, really pretty magazine cover. That has a totally different flow to it than this, right? I mean, this is darker, big, bold text, tons and tons of information because they're trying to get you to buy into what the magazine is. So they're going to throw a bunch of information on it. So when I'm laying that out, I'm going to try to see what mine's like. As I look through this magazine, I see, okay, having this text over here is all right. I don't necessarily need to have any secondary information. I'm good. The last thing I need to do, which a lot of you missed in your sketches as well, is I'm going to go like this, an arrow down into my left, and I'm going to title that Flow. Yes, you are drawing on top of your magazine, but that's fine. It's just a quick sketch. So we're just going to lay it all out like that. I don't have a lot of detail. I don't have any color. I don't care if you don't have color. You can just do pencils if you want. This isn't something that's supposed to take, 4 days of rendering and shading and blending and doing all that stuff. It's just going to look kind of like this. You can do it in pen. You can do it in pencil. If you make adjustments, erase, fix it, whatever. But that's kind of what we want to look like. By the end of the day on Monday, we're going to have this thing fully done and posted, turned in for your points. Okay? At that time, once we evaluate all those, and put my camera back. Once we get all those evaluated, then we're going to talk about getting into Photoshop and adjusting it and starting to rebuild and starting to actually build this magazine cover. So you have something that looks like one of these examples I have up there for you. Okay. If you look at this Battlefield 3 magazine cover, by the time you are done with this class, you might not have the artistic ability, but you will have the knowledge to be able to build this whole cover right here, because you'll have the same programs they use to make those. Okay. All it is an image with a bunch of text laid over the top of it, maybe a couple of photo effects. All right. So once that's done, that you are done with this rough draft portion. All right. I will have this video posted in our assignment. So when you click on the assignment to do it, I'll clip this up and I'll put that in there so you can rewatch it if you need to get your examples right. If you've been taking notes and you feel you're really confident, then you can just start working on this right now, because you got about 20 minutes or so left before our second period start for today. But if you guys don't have any questions, we'll be good to go. Oh, okay, good question. So let's see, background question mark. Is that talking about this, or is that an old question, Daniel? Oh, I think it might be an old question. That was a while ago. Anybody have any general questions for what I explained to you guys? Awesome. If you haven't done your 6 sketches, please do that first. I need to know that you have a good understanding and concept of what we're looking for in terms of labeling the different things. And if you're done with that, then you guys are good to go. Please work on this right now. Don't worry about working on this weekend, and then I'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.